Shalom, shalom. Welcome back to another episode of Torah Truth for Today. We are counting down the top 15 objections that people have to Torah being for every believer today. I believe that the Torah, or the instructions given in the Old Testament, commonly referred to as the law, are for every believer today. And I want to make it clear that we are not saved by keeping the law. We are saved by putting our faith and trust in the atoning sacrifice of Yeshua at the cross and repenting of our sins. We place our life in His hands and we're born again. It has nothing to do with the works. So just to make it clear that it is not a salvation issue, but it is a sanctification issue. As children of the Most High God, we want to follow His instructions. We want to keep His commandments and be pleasing to Him. As it says in Deuteronomy 11:1, "Therefore shalt thou love the Lord thy God, and keep His charge, and His statutes, and His judgments, and His commandments always." So objection number 10 is that we only need to keep 2 commandments. We hit on this one earlier, the belief that we don't need to keep all the commandments, just the 2 biggies. Love the Lord your God with your whole heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Many people have heard it preached that it is very common, this belief that Jesus Himself said that these were the only 2 commandments that we had to keep. But He didn't actually say that. In fact, far from doing away with the commandments, He said, on these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. In other words, the whole Old Testament, the whole Bible actually, the duty of man hangs on these 2 commandments. Remember, at that time, there was no such thing as a New Testament. So, if we do away with the law, we have to do away with the Psalms and the prophets and all the other writings. Yeshua was quoting Deuteronomy 6:5 and Leviticus 19:18 when He quoted the 2 greatest commandments. These were not Jesus' originals. He quotes what is known as the Shema, the first tenet of the Jewish faith. It's still quoted daily by every Orthodox Jew. They asked Him, "Master, what is the greatest commandment?" And Yeshua said, "Shema, Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." The Shema is often translated as listen or hear, but it means much more in the Hebrew. It means to listen and obey. This is faith. This is called emunah in the Hebrew. In other words, it's not just hearing the word, but putting the word into action. If Yeshua said we only need 2 commandments, how do we reconcile that with Galatians 5:14, which says that the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command, that you love your neighbor as yourself? It was a very Jewish way of looking at it. Very common in Judaism to shorten a collection of teachings down to just 1 or 2 short statements to summarize them. Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 12:13, "The whole duty of man is to fear God and to keep His commandments." Such as Habakkuk 2:4, which says that the just shall live by faith, which Paul quotes in Romans 1:17. Paul, as a first century Pharisee, was very affluent in this. And Paul, by the way, didn't leave his Pharisaism. He said at the end of his life, "I am a Pharisee of Pharisees." And the great Rabbi Hillel, who was the grandfather of Gamaliel, who was Paul's rabbi, writing before Jesus, said almost the same thing as the Golden Rule. He said, "What is hateful to thee, do not do unto thy fellow. This is the whole law. All the rest is a commentary. Now go and learn it." The Ten Commandments are the very cornerstone of our Western civilization. James Madison said, "We have staked the whole future of our nation upon the capacity to govern ourselves according to the moral principles of the Ten Commandments." And most people believe that God's original top 10 list still apply today. In fact, they believe that these are all we need to live by today. Understandably, 10 commandments sounds a lot more doable than 613 commandments codified in the Old Testament. But the two greatest commandments, according to Yeshua, technically aren't even in the 10 commandments. They are summations of the 10, but the commandments give us details on how to keep the two greatest commandments. For instance, it tells us how to love God, how to be pleasing to Him, how to love our neighbor. It starts with a summation of all the Old Testament commands into the two, which Jesus said were the most important. And then we see more details of what these two look like in the 10, and then more details in the 613, as well as many other commands and instructions, such as in the Proverbs or in the New Testament. In the New Testament, there are 1,050 commandments. There's a great series of videos on the 10 Commandments from Dennis Prager on YouTube, and it's on our website, shopnoahsark.com. On shopnoahsark.com, we have all kinds of great teaching videos. We have articles, free movies, and movies for kids. So hopefully you'll check it out. So I want to finish today with a couple of great scriptures. Deuteronomy 5:29. "Oh, that there were such an heart in them, that they would fear me and keep all my commandments always, and that it might be well with them and with their children forever." And Psalm 19:7 says, "The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul, and the testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple." Thank you for watching. Shalom, shalom.